Hey fanboys and fangirls, this is Jared with another review from Fanboys Forever, and today we're going to be taking a look at Spin Master's brand new Hooded Robin figure from their Cape Crusader Creature Chaos line. So without further ado, let's open them up. It's worth noting that Robin is as familiar as any of the other DC Spin Master figures. You open this part up and you have kind of a drawer full of 3 different accessories, and I'll show you really quick what you get. You get all 3 of these guys with this version. Usually there's about 2 different versions of each figure you could get. His is the jungle variation. And one of the fun parts of getting the different variations is you get a trading card that you just get out from that section right there. And here it appears as if the Hooded Robin is fighting Man-Bad. So let's go ahead and pop this guy out of the box. It's also worth noting Robin comes with a product guide. This guide is essentially here to show you all the different accessories you could get with each release. For me, I got this release, which is the jungle variation, and I could have gotten this one, which comes with some slightly different accessories. I'm always glad though to get the armor pieces. I don't know about you, so I am quite happy that I ended up with the helmet instead. Alright, so let's have a closer look at Robin here. Spin Master keeps the Mattel tradition of being intentionally quite vague with their Robin releases, and we have no idea exactly which Robin that this is necessarily supposed to be. The only thing we can say with a pretty good amount of certainty is he is not Dick Grayson, because there he is back there as Nightwing. We can also say that he's probably not Jason Todd, since Jason Todd is of course the Red Hood. So we're left with only 2 options. Either this is Tim Drake, the younger Robin, or Red Robin as he's been known in some years, or Drake, as he's been known more recently to varying results, or it's Damian Wayne, Batman's son. So it's really hard to say exactly what they're going for here, but I'll tell you as the review goes on kind of some of my thoughts on that. Let's start out just by looking at the figure itself. We'll start out with the sculpting. We have a really nice Robin head sculpt at the top. You can see that even though the hood is in the way, there's really no way to pull it off. The hood is actually a fairly hard plastic. It's not as rubbery or nearly as rubbery as I thought it would be. So this is about as good a look at the head as you can possibly get. The mask has that very classic Robin shape, and then the hair is kind of in a swoop up there. Then the face kind of has a sort of pouty expression. It would be nice if we would get kind of a smirky Robin head every now and then. To my eye, this does indeed look to be quite a different head sculpt than the previous Robin head sculpt that we got from Spin Master. On the back, we can see that the hood is just sculpted. There's kind of a line going there, and there's some sort of sloppy paint applied to the front of it. But we all know what happens whenever a toy company usually tries to put yellow paint on black plastic. Sometimes the results can vary a little bit. This isn't so bad, but it is a little sloppy. Moving on down, we can see something that pretty clearly is reuse, and that is the rest of the figure's body. It does appear that every bit of it is just a reuse of the previous Robin figure that we have gotten before. So you can see that just like that one, we have kind of the little indentions there to suggest the old stitches from the original Robin costume. We have a nicely applied tampographic detail with the R. We do have kind of a build-up for the hood right here. On down, we have a really cool utility belt as well, and I've always liked the design of this one. It kind of reminds me of the early 90s Tim Drake Robin utility belt. On the side, we have his Junior Batman gauntlets, as I like to call them. He has some kind of gigantic hands, but the purpose behind that is so that he is compatible with all the same accessories that Batman is, or at least the ones that can be held in his hands. On the sides, we just have some shoulder pads, a little bit of sculpting there. And then the legs are pretty plain and generic without much going on here. And we have some nice lace-up kind of looking boots though, so I actually do like that detail. On the back, we can see that we get one of those capes. This one actually feels to be made of a higher quality material than what we had gotten before. It's much less stiff and starchy, and it more feels like a satiny fabric. So I'm really glad to see them head towards that, and hopefully with future Batman releases, they'll do the same thing. On the back, we kind of have the expected details, of course. It's worth noting that this version of Robin is the one that is just black, red, and yellow. This kind of reflects Tim Drake's later costumes, and it also reflects a coloring trend that started with the New Adventures of Batman when it moved to the Kids WB for the second iteration of the animated series. I've always had a big soft spot for that color scheme because of that show, so it's always really cool to see it here. It's also worth pointing out that there are two versions of this hooded robin that are available pretty much concurrently. This you can get on Amazon, and at Walmart you can find the one that has some green built into it, much like the other original release of Robin. Let's look at articulation. The head can turn, but barely. It feels pretty stiff in there, and I really don't want to push it too much, but you can get a pretty good range that way and a pretty good range that way. Any more and it would look a little silly if the hood was practically turning with his head like an owl. So moving on up, the arms can do that, and that is a terrific range of motion. You get way more than 90 that way. Of course, we can go all the way around. We have a rotation at the elbow. We do have a single jointed elbow as well. It's just a single jointed hinge, but it has a pretty decent amount of range there. There's nothing at the wrist, as there never really is. There's nothing at the waist. There's never really anything there either. The leg can go up about that much, which is just about at 90 perfectly. He can do the splits as he should be able to, since he is supposed to be a skilled gymnast. He does have a cut right here at the hip, a single joint at the knee, which isn't quite 90, so that's a little unfortunate. And there is a rotation and nothing at the ankles. Overall, he's just as well articulated as just about any of the other Spin Master DC figures. And let's take a closer look at each of Robin's accessories. They have this odd, splash of paint on them, and I know that it's supposed to be kind of their attempt at sort of giving a gritty wash, but all of them feature some varying degree of this gray paint that appears to be just mixed in with the injection molding. And I'm not too big of a fan of it, but I will say that these nunchucks that he comes with probably use the effect better than a lot of the other pieces I've seen. The gray looks okay with the gold. So I wish they had instead used the paint to just, paint the chain up here gray. That would have been great. But these aren't so bad. They look kind of neat. Michelangelo, eat your heart out. Right over here, we also get Robin's staff, and I really like the sculpting on this thing. Of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that this is a completely original, brand new staff that we have not seen before. And I love it because it kind of has the Robin look to it on each end. And I just love the sculpting that went into this thing. And it's much better than that generic looking bow staff that we got previously. Unfortunately, it does feature a lot of that weird kind of gray splash of paint that they have on there, but it's not too distracting, and much like the nunchucks, it actually came out to be pretty subtle on this, so I actually think it's okay. Lastly, we get this red Batman helmet, and this follows the new design of Batman armor that we're seeing with some of the figures. Of course, it can't go on Robin because of the hood, and Robin's head is probably a little too small for it. But with a standard Batman figure, you should be able to pop this right on, and you will get a look that's something like this. However, it's a little bit of a strange fit. It's pretty wide. It barely stays on there. The ears actually pop up over it, so it is a little strange, but certainly not the worst thing. I've speculated previously that perhaps it is meant for the brand new armored Batman, which does appear to be the Batman that they're really pushing for this season of the toys, and not for that standard original Batman. And let's see if I am right. You know what? Sure enough, I do believe that this is really intended for this Batman. Because the head is wider, it fits much better on here. As you can see, it kind of lines up with that mouth a little bit better, and the ears don't really protrude above it too much. On the back, you can see that it really does fit it quite snugly, and even though the color is a little strange with this suit of armor, it's actually pretty neat. So yes, I do think it's actually intended for this thing. Now, if they could just get us one that's this exact same color as the suit, I think that would look much better, but still, it's kind of neat. And here's Robin holding both of his included accessories. They both fit really well in the hand, and I really like how the color complements the outfit. And we'll do a few comparisons with some of the previous Robin action figures. We'll start out with the original standard Robin that you can get. This is Robin in his green and red traditional costume, and they look quite nice together. The heads, even though kind of similar, really aren't the same. You can see that this one is a lot more squat, the nose is very different, and the mask is sculpted quite differently. And this one, the nose looks a little bit different, the mask is a little different. So there actually is some variation here going on the sculpt. The chin is totally different, this is more flattened out, this is more pointed. So I kind of have some inferences that I've made about exactly what this means. I realize that the heights aren't exactly different, but I think just by judging by the looks of the sculpt, that they're sort of intending this to be Damian Wayne Robin, and this is meant to be more the Tim Drake Robin. And it's kind of funny because if you're going to do Damian Wayne, those legs are going to have to be quite a bit shorter to make this work. Because if we bring Batman up here, the hooded Robin is actually a little bit taller than Batman. So it's just because of the hood and the way the head connects. So it's funny because I do think that the intention with the head sculpt is more that Damian Wayne look. And Damian Wayne should barely come up to Batman's utility belt. So it is pretty funny if that's their intention. And just for fun, here's the comparison with the other version of standard Robin that you could get that really does go more with the color scheme here. And so it's funny because they have definitely given you some options when it comes to your Robin action figures, because they've actually done the exact same paint variation with the hooded version. I have not gotten it yet, but showing up at Walmart's right now, we do have the green highlighted version with the green all around the costume with the hood. So it is funny that just like there was these two color variations of this guy, the pretty much exact same color variation exists with hooded Robin. So I suppose you've heard of choose your own adventure books. I suppose that Spin Master is doing a choose your own Robin. You can pretty much, and I think the reason they do all this color variation is because they want you to have a few options here. With the more red and black colors, it's kind of giving you the option to say it's Tim Drake, at least in my opinion. And with the more green color scheme, they're sort of giving you the option for the Damian Wayne Robin. But to be honest, if we're just going by head sculpts purely, we can probably safely say that the two without the hood are supposed to just be Tim Drake in two different color variations of costume, while the hooded versions are probably supposed to be Damian Wayne. Of course, you just kind of have to use your imagination so that Spin Master doesn't have to spend any more on the tooling. But does it really matter? So there is one more source to turn to try to solve the mystery of the unknown Robin. We will look at the card art and see what we can gather. Here we have the card that came with this version, and he is in the black and red costume as he should be for this release. And now we have the version that came with Firefly, and this is representative of the one that I said can be found at Walmart right now with the green highlights. It does appear that this artwork is showing a very similar looking Robin, and maybe even the exact same artwork that's been photoshopped, but I don't know. There's certainly elements of the artwork that are exactly the same, but the faces look slightly different, with this one over here being a little more elongated and this one here being a little more squat. Well, that just confuses me even more. Now prepare to be confused even more, because with the old Robin card art, you can see that I didn't realize it, but he is supposed to already be wearing the hood. That's right. What I always assumed was cape detail back here is actually just a hood that is down around his neck. I had no clue. Well, forget everything I just said about it possibly being a different version of Robin. I think it is safe to assume that this is just Spin Master Tim Wayne or Damian Drake. You figure it out. And now I will give you just a quick tutorial on which sidekick figures I suggest for each Batman variation. Why did I do this? I don't know. Have I thought about it a lot? Yes, I have. Probably too much. So moving up, we do have Nightwing together with the new kind of armor-plated Batman figure. I think these two look really good together, and it's just a matter of kind of contrast with their different suit colors. I think Batwoman and the original armored Batman look quite nice together because of all of the black. And then we have Catwoman with the Batman that came in the Clayface set. I think they kind of match because it's more of a devious looking Batman for a more villainous sidekick. Over here, I just kind of have an homage to the New Adventures of Batman cartoon with the Batman that is the closest to that design with that coloration of Robin. Over here, we do have your most classical pair that you can get from Spin Master at this time. You have the original Robin release with the blue Batman that comes with the Batcave. And moving on, we now have this new version, and I think he looks pretty cool with the armored Batman. I saw Robin wearing the hood as meaning he's a little more armored, so maybe they go together. This Robin would probably go better with the other variation of this armored Batman figure that's out there. I think you can get him on Amazon right now, and I don't have him, but he looks like that because of all the extra black on both figures. Yes, I've thought about it too much. So although we are left quite sadly with no definitive answer of exactly who this Robin is, I am very happy to have him in my collection. It's always great to get different looks for the different members of the Bat family, and I can't wait to get the red Nightwing figure and the other variation of this hooded Robin. I'm not sure that the next variation of the hooded Robin will justify its own review, but hey, maybe you want to see it anyway, if nothing else, just to see what kinds of crazy accessories Spin Master has cooked up this time. So do I suggest that you pick up this Robin? Well, that depends. How casual a fan are you of the Spin Master Batman stuff? If you are a pretty casual fan, then you may as well just leave it to your own preference about which version of this Robin you pick up and only get one. There's really not very much that's different about him at all. Or, if you're like me and cursed with a completionist mind, then you will end up getting both anyway. He is just as good as the previous Robin, even if you may have to be on the lookout for a little bit of the sloppiness on the paint. But I am very happy that I picked him up, and he is another great addition to the Spin Master Cape Crusader collection. Anyway, guys, that does it for me. You guys be safe out there. God bless you, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Later.